Something that affects absolutely every single one of you at home, and it is the price of gas, the price of petrol and diesel, and indeed our regularity of supply. And I'm joined again by Clive Moffat, gas consultant and former advisor to the government on energy. Clive, welcome back.
Thank you, Nigel.
We hear a lot about gas prices. I mean, the truth is the spot price actually has fallen considerably from the highs.
It has. There's been some adjustment, some profit taking.
So roughly half what it got to on its peak.
Roughly half what it got to.
Yeah, but it did get to a ridiculous spiky level. Now, you know, there are many speculating that actually behind all of this, whether Putin really wants to launch a military invasion or not, you know, he could be playing a big game of cat and mouse. He's got the European Union divided, which no doubt will please him. But any kind of conflict presumably leads to a big spike in prices.
Yes, any kind of conflict, you're quite right, will in fact scare the markets, and we'll see another jump, or are going to see another jump in wholesale prices of gas, and that's inevitable, I think. I think, as we discussed before, we don't actually physically depend upon a lot of Gazprom supplies directly. Russia does contribute quite a little bit, maybe 5% of LNG supplies to the UK.
Yeah.
But mostly in the short term, in terms of looking at how do we adjust to vagaries in the market short term, we're reliant upon the world LNG market. Now, what will happen if, God forbid, some conflict does take place and the gas is turned off, then the scramble in Europe for gas could well ricochet around the markets and will ricochet around the markets. And it could well be that not only will prices rise, which will mean for consumers further rises in the autumn of this year.
But supply?
But actual physical supply could be threatened, because if this is combined, say, with very high pressure cold spell in the UK and across Europe, there could well be a situation where shippers cannot, A, won't pay the price, or B, can't get the supplies that they need to meet demand in the short term, and we are faced with yet another potential gas emergencies announcement from grid.
So if the wind doesn't blow, and Britain now very dependent upon a good supply of wind energy, if the wind doesn't blow, the gas could run out. I mean, all of it to me says that it's quite mad, Clive, that we're not self-sufficient on gas, because we could be, couldn't we?
It again raises the issue about whether or not we've reached the point where the government has to recognise that natural gas, and I mean in the medium term, maybe 10 to 20 years, it will be important for heat and for power, and that measures need to be taken to underpin the security of gas supply, where if that can be done, and also in terms of power, in terms of security of power supply through the use of gas in power. So we are just sort of, if you like, this has become not just a debate among economists about how quickly can we decarbonise, etc. It's become more of a security debate, an affordability debate, and I think certain action has to be taken.
And if we're in potential trouble, Germany's in even worse trouble.
Germany's reaction to this is interesting because, as you know, they've cancelled nuclear. And so, to some extent, if the gas is turned off on both the pipelines, both Nord Stream pipelines, then you are in a situation where Germany will simply burn more lignite coal. Isn't the irony of that?
Which, of course, is very, very heavy in carbon dioxide.
Very much so, yes. But you've got, what I'd like to sort of just point it out, that there's not a lot that the government can do, or any government could do, in the very short term in terms of mitigating the volatility in the markets caused by what we're discussing. What we need is to reset policy in the medium term and look at what measures could be taken to actually underpin greater storage in this country. What meant to more storage investment, what action could be taken to encourage more investment in gas generation, which has been basically kicked down the path for several years now.
Yeah.
And we need to look at probably, I think, the most important issue, which we haven't discussed last time, is I think we've reached a point in this debate about decarbonisation, net zero, and security and affordability, where perhaps it's become very fractious, very emotional on both sides to some extent. There's been cancellation of one side by the other and vice versa. I think we've reached a point where we might need to depoliticize energy. I think the case there's a strong case now for looking at the possibility of setting up a strategic energy authority to do what we did in monetary policy, to take a much longer term view, to take the market operation control out of the grid and to reduce the role of Ofgem and to actually oversee the long term, if you like, management of energy policy.
Interesting. It'd be very interesting to see what the political reaction of that is. Clive Moffat, thank you very much indeed for coming back and joining us. You see, these things really matter. You know, what is going to happen to your gas and electricity bills? What is going to happen if the supply of natural gas ran out? Militarily, what on earth could happen in the Ukraine? And if Mr. Putin was to go into the Ukraine, then what next?